a heads up with the ground rules. Okay, we would be actually taking in a maximum of 2 questions per person, and if time permits, we can go on. This session will last about almost 1 hour. All right. So if your questions are not answered, don't worry. They are still part of TMR. You can always ask them the questions in our Facebook chat. All right. Anyway, before I start, let's welcome the 2 ladies today. We have with us Sarah Sinaram. Okay, she has been a dietitian for over 15 years. Right, she started the practice in the community at National Healthcare Polyclinics, then moved on to Raffles Hospital, and she's currently heading the Nutrition and Dietetics Department at Mount Alvernia Hospital. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Rama.
And
good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And together with her, we have another beautiful lady, Ritika. She's a certified coach with Precision Nutrition Level 1 accreditation for Canada. And she's also done her internship with Alvernia Hospital and the Nutrition and Dietetic Department. And she's also with Healthify Me India as a nutritionist. Welcome, Ritika.
Thank you, Rama.
Glad you both can join us this Sunday and educate us further. Just a little bit more. I know Sarah since she was 17 years old, and Ritika since the last 17 years. All right. Take it away, ladies.
Hi, and good morning, everyone. We're so excited to be sharing with you today. And we just wanted to find out a little bit more about you before we start our talk, right? So if you can help us to type in some answers in the chat group so we can understand a little bit more about you. So first question is, are you trying to lose weight? Okay, so yes, number 1, can you type in 1? If it's a no, number 2. And if you're trying to gain weight, can you put in a number 3 there? So again, if you're trying to lose weight, yes is 1, 2 is no. And then, but if you're trying to gain weight, please enter 3. Okay, awesome. We got a lot of answers. So mainly a lot of you trying to lose weight. Okay. And okay, I have another question for you. If when you're hungry, right? So what's the first food you would normally reach out for? Okay, so 1, if it's a savory food, right? Something like, like a curry puff, and 2, if it's a sweet food, right? So what would you reach out for, savory or sweet? 1 is savory and 2 is sweet. Because we know, I don't know about you, Ritika, but I love potato chips. And someone wrote there, Chandru wrote, but chips.
Yeah, all the junk.
Whatever, someone wrote whatever. Both. Nice. Junk food lah. Someone wrote junk food lah. Yeah, so we hope to try to help you to understand how we can manage that a little bit later. Okay, and the last question, which is to me quite personal. Can you tell us, I need you to type it in now, what would you normally eat for dinner, or what did you have for dinner last night? Okay, so what did you have for dinner last night, or what would you normally eat? Greek yogurt, wow. We have someone who is super healthy here. Yeah. Maggie, fruits, sushi, pizza, prata,
pani puri,
prawn sambal, yummy. Tapas, wow. I'm feeling hungry already.
Looking at these answers, we're wondering why we're trying to bring down our body fat. Sure.
Okay, so just a little bit of personal information about us. Myself, I am South Indian, and specifically I'm Tamil. So I'm very familiar with our Tamil or South Indian foods. Where's Ritika?
Yeah, I'm originally from Bangalore, southern part of India, but I'm Punjabi. I myself used to weigh 111 kgs at one point in time.
Yeah, so can we show you the picture for proof? Okay.
Yeah, so that was me at 111. And then this was at 67 and now at 57. So I have my entire journey, that gets me to doing what I'm doing today. This is not something that I decided that I wanted to study about when I was in college. It's my own experience, which then got me involved with knowing better, and how passionate I was about then getting to this. The fact that I could lose 30 kgs in the first 1 year, and my struggles and my challenges at that point in time, believe me, everyone I speak with is going through just the same. And in my opinion, a lot of times the weight is only on the outside. The problem is always something else. So it's just advisable to dig deeper into what and how. All that emotional eating, stress eating, eating our emotions, eating our stress is what most of us end up doing. That's why what Sarah asked you, what would you get to if you wanted a snack? Would it be savory? Would it be sweet? People who normally get to sweet is a lot of emotional eating here. This is a generic view. I'm not basing an opinion based on what I went through, but when I wanted to get to something, it was anything visible. Just take it and eat it. And if it was junk in front of me, I wanted to eat it. Chips, pani puri, anything. And in those days. So my journey is what brings me to this today. And I have a lot to share, and happy to answer all the questions that are coming along.
So I was so excited to meet Ritika because she went through this journey, which is very different from mine, because I was always like into healthy food, and so so it's like we hope to give you different insights today, right? And so I'd like to share with you a few slides, if that's okay with you. Okay, and really, just the message to put across to everyone is, being Indian, it's special, right? We have our unique music and dance. I think we should really celebrate being Indian. And we also should be very aware about our body types. And there is actually a thing called the Asian phenotype, right? Or the Asian Indian phenotype. And what that is basically, despite us being a lower of a body weight, internally, we could be still having a lot of abdominal fat, right? Especially around our central region, right? And because of that, right, that could make us at risk of having insulin resistance, right? Okay. Our levels of C-reactive protein, which is actually an inflammation marker, is higher than that of a normal person. Okay. We also have a lower levels of adenopectin. So adenopectin is actually just a fancy word for a type of a hormone which regulates our blood sugar levels and also breaks down the fat in our body. So imagine that. So I mean, just to share the context of the talk. So really, when we are choosing a healthy diet for ourselves, just bear this in mind, that we already to start with, we have some issues with our genes, right? And our hormone levels. Okay, and because of that, right, you might also have a lower HDL, and HDL is the good cholesterol, right? At this point, I'd just like to ask our viewers, if you have done a health screening recently, or if you can recall what your cholesterol results were. So the HDL is actually the good cholesterol, and the LDL is the bad cholesterol, right? And the triglycerides is actually a store of blood fats in our liver. Now, the doctors may not tell you this, but a high triglyceride level is actually tells you that you are at high risk of having diabetes in the next 6 months, actually, right? So if you have a high triglyceride level, you would definitely want to do some lifestyle change to try to bring this down, okay? And of course, all this increases our risk of having type 2 diabetes and coronary heart disease, okay? Right, so just to show you, so we have this called the metabolic syndrome. So basically, it is obesity plus your chronic diseases like your diabetes, your high blood pressure, and even high cholesterol. So it's actually what you call it a bundle deal, right? So metabolic syndrome is actually the bundle deal where you have obesity plus your chronic diseases, right? So as you can see in this table, there was this study in the second row that was done in Singapore. And they looked at Indians versus Chinese and Malays, right? And the sample size is actually the biggest with over 4,000 people involved. And they found, right, this metabolic syndrome was most common in Asian Indians, right? So the question is, many people ask me why? Why are we so at risk of it? Could it be our diet? Yeah. So, it's really a combination of our gene, right? Our phenotype plus the environmental. Yeah. So you have anything to add, Ritika?
Lifestyle changes would be the answer in cases like these. We need to just ensure that we do things correctly because we already have it in us. I always say, right? I'll take myself as an example over here. Whatever I do, how much ever I do, my cholesterol levels are always at 201, 202, 205, and on a good year, 195. Why? Because my parents always had high cholesterol. My grandfather passed away in his sleep, heart attack. My mom's got twin brothers who passed away in their sleep at 40, 42, silent heart attack in their sleep. My mom's had a silent heart attack again. So it's there in my genes. I'm like a dented piece of wood. That's what I call myself. So as much as I can fight my genes, I do that even today. Irrespective, I'm still at 200, which is your TSH, total cholesterol, should be at that below 200. So I'm always at that. So we're always constantly fighting it, irrespective of what we do. So at this point in time, all this junk food and all the pani puri and all that, we were all just typing. These are things we should try and avoid and change our lifestyle.
Okay, and so just to complete that, so basically, besides our genes, right, there's also increased availability to outside food because, I don't know about your family, but for us, we love going out to eat and trying different foods, right? But I try to limit that to the weekend these days. Yeah. And also we have less of the healthy foods like the vegetables, the fruits. And I don't know about you guys, but at home, most of the meals at my home, they do not like vegetables. And you know what? Vegetables is so good because you can't really, and vegetables and fruits, right? You can't pinpoint what is it in the fruit or vegetable that gives you good health, right? So we don't know whether it's the polyphenols, is it the antioxidants, is it the dietary fiber? So because of that, right, we are suggesting that you have all these and have a variety of it instead of just like having only your spinach every day or your lady's fingers every day. Yeah.
So everything in moderation is the answer to a healthy lifestyle. Whatever you want to do it in a very restricted way and get only that much every day. Don't overdo anything.
All right. So, so this is because we understand that many of you are running a lot and well done. I wish I can be like you. Awesome. And I heard like the group, they ran 12.8 clicks today. Is that right, Rama?
Yeah, that's right. I think they ran a relay race, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So good on you for, keeping healthy and fit and making that extra effort to fight our genes, right? So this is just some post-workout meal ideas for you. Okay, but you notice these are quite Western based. Yeah, so Ritika and me are going to try to make it more Indian now. So please feel free to chat in the group if you have any other suggestions. So we were thinking like for tuna sandwich, what can we have to make it more Indian, Ritika?
Normally a post-workout meal is usually protein rich. And ideally 20 minutes after your workout, you will get to a protein shake or, one of those. But if you decide, a lot of my clients don't want to get on to having a protein shake because they want to get it all in their diet. They don't want to get on to a shake. So then I just tell them that if it's time for lunch or time for breakfast, then you get to your breakfast 1 hour after that. Just ensure that it is protein rich. So, like a chicken sandwich, minus the mayo, minus the extra cheese and butter if you're trying to bring down body fat. In any case, a diet which is customized and made for you will have its own dietary fat. So we don't want to add on to what is already there. And Indian diets per se, we end up using a lot of oil, ghee, butter in cooking our own food at home. And so you just need to be very watchful of what you're putting on as extra, because it's already available in our food.
Yes. And so with that, we'd like to open the questions to our participants.
Hi, so let me take over from here. Okay, before I go into the first question that was already given to us before the Zoom session, I heard Ritika mention some numbers like 200, 208, where you measure your cholesterol level, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the right amount? What is the right number that should be, and how do you measure this?
So you get your blood test done, your 6 monthly or annual blood test done with your GP. That's how I do mine. And I check it every 6 months, like on the dot 6 months, because I don't know what I'm going to end up with. And your TSH, which is your total cholesterol, should be below 200. That is the score. So the reference range is always given in your blood report, wherever you get that done.
We have a wide age group in TMR. Like, for example, we have early 20s, even younger than that, all the way to 50s, 60s as well. So the period of 6 months that you mentioned, is it throughout for all the age group, or the older you are?
So to answer that question again, in my opinion, it's always good to get your blood picture done once in 6 months. Always, especially if you're coming with any sort of genetic background, like me with cholesterol. So I didn't start checking my cholesterol today. I started checking this 10 years back to keep it in check every 6 months. And the minute I realized that it was always 205 and above, then it's a no-brainer. I have to check it every 6 months to know where I'm at. Now, supposing it did come to 150, 160, 170 sometimes, maybe then I would take it easy, because this is the only problem that I do have. And then I could prolong it to once in a year. But why not? Check it once in 6 months.
The minimum anyone should be checking would be annually, right? And then thereafter, if you have like high cholesterol, the doctor would advise you every 3 months if you're on medication. Yeah, and you also have a choice like Ritika's case. She does it every 6 months. So, but minimally once a year.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just move on to the first question by Kumuda. She's one of our very active runners. Okay, the question is: every food is to be eaten in moderation. Does eating after a certain time affect us?
So that's a very good question, and I would like to answer that with some evidence, Kumuta. So there was a study that was done, actually quite a few studies that were done to show food intake in the morning versus evening and versus late night, right? And they found, right, that the metabolism is actually the best in the morning, right? Followed by afternoon, and it is really the lowest at night, specifically late night, right? So hence, I think Ritika has some words of wisdom for everyone.
That's why they say, right? Eat your breakfast like a king, eat your lunch like a queen, and eat dinner like a pauper. It's because your metabolism is at its peak in the morning. So eat that good breakfast, then go good with your lunch too, and go easy on your dinner. But with all our lifestyles and our work timings, we forget breakfast and lunch because we're so involved with work that we wake up to wanting to eat only post 5 or 6 in the evening. And that time we bulk up on that one meal. That is what leads to all of this, one after the other.
Yeah, can I just say that though I've met many of my Indian friends who only have dinner like after 9 or 10 o'clock, right? So, this is something maybe we want to relook at. Yeah. So like only because there is evidence to show that late night meals are actually digested slower, right? And and it also could end up with unnecessary weight gain.
Yeah, and to add a little more to this, what Sarah just said, so many people ask us, so what happens to our social life then, Ritika? Where do we go? What do we do? How do we party if we have to finish eating our dinner before 7 o'clock? No, if it's once in a while and you need to do that meal at 9 o'clock too, it's all right. Moderation. That word, very important. Keep that always in mind. Once in a while to do anything, out of the way, your body will also handle it well. You do that every day, you will not be able to take it. You'll wake up bloated. You'll wake up acidic.
Awesome. Okay. We have a lot of working moms in the group as well. Okay. And I've got a question from Yasmin. Women and hormones, how does that factor in for Indian food? Is there something we should take more or less of as we get older?
I think that was a very good question. And when we first saw it, we were wondering whether, at which stage of life Yasmin was at. So we are guessing here because we don't know Yasmin, but maybe it's premenopausal, right? So just a guess from us, our end. So basically, when we get older, because you lose your muscle mass, so metabolism actually drops, right? So when your metabolism drops, you can't be eating the same quantities of food as you were when you were younger, right? So that is one point of view where you really need to control on your carbohydrates, right? And to increase your protein content, right? Yeah, and I think Ritika had some more information to add on to that.
Yeah, Yasmin, is she here? Is she in the group? Is she available right now?
Hello, just joined in.
Hi, Yasmin. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, my video is off. Sorry, the kids are around.
Hi.
Hi, Yasmin. So hormone-based, I would advise you to probably get onto something called seed cycling. Have you heard of seed cycling?
Oh yes. As in
Yes.
SEAT, right? Yeah.
Seed cycling. So you're basically using 4 seeds. Seed cycling is basically a food-based approach to hormone balancing. I can share details.
Okay.
To,
Yes. Then maybe you can show me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can share details with you on that, but that's very good to do, especially for people with polycystic ovaries, menopausal, any issues hormonally. Good to start with your seed cycling. We'll discuss that later.
Okay, great. So first time I'm hearing that though. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. Okay, the next one's by Mr. Iyengar. Why is diabetes on the rise in our Indian community? Has it got anything to do with the diet, and can diabetes be reversed?
All right. So I think that was like an excellent question, which is a lot of the time on many people's mind. And in the first slide, I shared how the Indian phenotype and how we are at risk, or even though we are on the slim side, we still could be having insulin insensitivity. That means you still have all your insulin, but it is not as working as 100% as someone else, right? It could maybe be working at 70%. So because of that, right, that puts us at a greater risk of getting diabetes, right? And because we also have some issues with our fat metabolism, right? So because of that, there's increased risk of coronary heart disease. So to answer that, it would be both genetic factor plus, of course, our food, right? So we also had a very interesting discussion before our session earlier. We were talking about what we have usually at home. What do we eat at home? And then how the quantities as well. So I just want to share a story about how I went for like a 10-click walk, right? With people. I didn't know them. My first time is a group a walk. And then at the end of the walk, so we said, let's go for some breakfast, right? So this is where it gets really interesting. So my version of breakfast was like very unhealthy, 1 roti prata, right? But the people with me, they ordered like nasi biryani, and then after the nasi biryani, they went on to have like the Malay kueh, like kueh salad, and then the goreng pisang. And after one drink, they also they closed the entire meal with a teh tarik. So, I didn't know, I couldn't say anything because it's my first time meeting them, right? So I didn't want to sound rude. So it's like, we go for all this great, fantastic exercise. And then after that, we just totally negate all the benefits, right? By just overeating and then making wrong food choices. Yeah, so I think the best thing to do before your exercise would be to have a very light breakfast, so that improves your performance in your sports, especially when you're on a race. So have a light breakfast, And that also will keep you full if you choose like a good kind of complex carbohydrates, right? So you won't overeat at the end of your exercise routine, right? So really you need to set yourself up for success, when you go for your exercise, especially, right, if you're very new to exercise or you're not doing it regularly, because people who have to exercise on a regular basis, right, their metabolism has changed and they don't get hungry, right? They don't result in overeating. But it's the people who are the beginners that are very prone to this, overeating. I think some of you are smiling and laughing. Do you want to share with us your comments or feedback?
Yeah, you can put it up on the chat. It'll be good.
I think Mr. Murali wants to say something. And Mahesh also.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Murali.
Okay, sorry, I was the one who asked this question about diabetes. I just want to put this point, maybe you can elaborate on this. 40 years ago, when they are diabetic people, the doctors treat only with diet. They take out the carbohydrate and the diabetes get reversed. That is around 40 to 50 years ago. Right now, we are using medicine. You want to comment on this? Why is this so?
I think that's a loaded question, Mr. Murali. Okay, so of course, in our developed society, people are looking for quick fixes, right? And where it's very hard to make dietary changes, a quick fix would be to take some medication to bring it down immediately, right? And also sometimes, right, I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad thing, but many a times when the patients come in, they are really having this very high blood sugar levels, right? So you definitely, dietary changes will not result in immediate changes. So to bring it down, at least for the first few months, the doctors will give you a high dose medication or even put you on insulin to let your pancreas rest. And then, thereafter, you can start to do your dietary changes, right? So there are many factors that are in play when the doctor prescribes you some medication. But I understand your point completely. So when you do make the dietary change, right, you have to work very closely with your doctor, because sometimes the doctors, right, have experience where the patient comes in to us and finally they decide, right, whatever motivating factor it was, they decide that I'm going to make a lifestyle change, I'm going to change my diet. But they fail to inform the doctor who has given them a very high dose of insulin or tablets, right?
It must reduce.
Yes, and what happens is that they get into a hypo. A hypo. So you really should work together with your doctor when you're making this kind of lifestyle and dietary change. Yeah, but thank you, Mr. Murali. Very good point.
Thank you, Mr. Murali. He's been the most active in asking the questions for this session, actually. But we're going to move on to the next question now. The next one's by our very own Kavita. It's a beautiful question. I would love to know the answer for too. Why can some people eat rice and not put on while others can? I believe she's referring to the weight.
I wish that were true, Kavita. I wish.
You can eat rice. You can eat rice if you wish, as long as you know which part of the day you're eating it, and in the right quantity. Choose wisely. Don't use your simple carbs. Use complex carbs. Choose brown rice over white rice if need be. So it's not like just because I eat rice for lunch and dinner, I will put on weight as against you who eats chapati or roti. Nothing like that. As long as we both eat in the right portion size that is required for us with a customized diet that is made for us, we're good.
Yeah, so I think in terms of portion control, that would be important to take note of, and also how much are you eating. So what I usually tell my patients, right, or my clients is like a fistful, right? So you follow your own fist, right? So you look at your own fist, and so mine is very small. So that's the amount of rice I should be consuming per meal, right? And if you were to exceed that, then definitely, right? And if you're inactive, that will result in weight gain. Yeah.
So maybe can I just ask, what is when you keep saying that we should take brown rice, right, as opposed to white rice? So what is wrong with white rice? Like why do you suggest replacing it?
simple carbs, right? It's simple carbohydrate. Whereas brown rice is complex carbohydrate. Brown rice, quinoa, millets, all of these are your complex carbs, which will help keep you satiated, keep you fuller longer. And that is why you choose that. I don't know if I should even state this, but this is just something that I've been seeing when I go into FairPrice these days, just some observation. And I actually wanted to study this before I got onto this. Do you realize that suddenly at FairPrice, I am seeing the jasmine rice at one corner and I'm seeing a lot of basmati brown rice coming in. Has anyone noticed this? I just noticed it last night. And it was something that, it was a question I asked myself, how come? I think it's all diabetes related. The fact that diabetes is big in Singapore. Also the fact that they're trying to promote complex carbs over the simple carbs. Take away.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
So basically your white rice gets digested very quickly, right?
Yeah.
So within like 30 minutes to an hour, you have a spike in your blood sugar levels because the carbohydrates have been digested. And then, right, what happens? You have this very steep downward curve, So it's like that. Because of that, the spike causes inflammation in your body, right? So very interesting. It's so interesting. So these simple carbohydrates result in blood sugar spikes, which cause inflammation, and this is the one that causes a risk of diabetes, and also cholesterol formation in our body. And then when you have the brown rice or lower glycemic options like quinoa, like what Ritika mentioned, so all these, right, don't give you that spike. So you get a very nice low curve instead of that spike. And these, right, actually keep you feeling fuller for a longer time. Hence, you don't need to eat as much, right? So your portion size are automatically controlled by your brain, right? And the other thing is that there's a lot of research to show that grains, right? So the grains like in your brown rice and your even your brown pasta, your whole grain pasta, your multi-grain bread. So there is these phytochemicals, which are very beneficial chemicals to help prevent chronic disease. Yeah, so there is so much more benefit to choosing the boring brown rice over our white, or refined carbohydrates, really.
But Kavita, you know what you should do today for lunch? If you're having white rice at home today, and if you have a measured quantity of that, just make some brown rice and have it. Tell me how you feel. There is a vast difference. You will not be able to eat the same quantity of white rice that you were doing normally. You won't be able to.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. At the same time, do look at the chat box, guys, and comment and see what the rest of them are saying as well. Do participate. Ramesh has asked, a beer or a glass of wine a day, is it yay or nay?
Okay, so there is some guidelines, Ramesh, about how much alcohol we can be drinking in a week. So it's about four standard drinks a week, right? And then we need to have alcohol-free days in between, and for ladies it's lesser, I think about 2 to 3. Okay, so for the alcohol. And then some of my patients ask me, can I just keep the 4 to like one night? So yes, you can, but then that will affect your overall energy intake for that day. And if you're very concerned about your weight, you might want to moderate your food intake on the day you're taking a lot of alcohol. So I had this client, a Caucasian gentleman, and he came to me for weight loss. And, I've been following him up for like months, and he couldn't lose any weight. And he insisted that he was only having he lives alone, right? So he doesn't cook, and he only has 1 meal a day at max, right? And how come he's not losing the weight? So we decided to do a tracking on the weekends. So that's when we found out that basically on that one Saturday night, he has like over 20 bottles of beer, right? So that is your entire calorie intake for the week, right? Yeah. So that kind of explains why binge drinking, really is one of those reasons why you may not be losing weight. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Another question, this time from Vikram, I believe. I'm not sure if it has been answered, but I would like to ask how medications affect body weight. Some medications can make you put on body weight, and how do we manage that in terms of dieting?
Right. Yeah, that's a very good question, Vikram. And you know, it is super challenging. You know, I just want to acknowledge that if you're on medication that causes you to increase your appetite, and there are many medications like that, you know, around, it is a challenge. Okay, and you're going to be feeling hungry because you're going to be feeling hungry all the time, right? So you would want to eat something. So I would suggest that you have some healthy snacks on hand. You know, look in your food pantry. So at home, right, I try to balance out between the healthy and the non-healthy snacks, and obviously all the non-healthy snacks finish first. But when you're trying to lose weight, Vikram, it's important that you look at your food cabinets. You know, this may sound very what do you call it, when you need to throw out all the, you know, the nasty items, your junk food. You know, it sounds very drastic, but if you really want to be successful in your weight loss, Vikram, this is the kind of thing you have to do. You know,
Kitchen cleanup.
Yeah, kitchen cleanup, and then buying only the healthy stuffs. You know, think of start with the fruits and vegetables that you like to have, Vikram. I don't know whether you have any, you know.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked this question is the last 9 odd years I've been taking medication, so it's been like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so we acknowledge that, and that's going to be a challenge, but you can still lose the weight. Okay. On the brighter side of things, you can still lose it. But it has to be very planned and controlled. And of course, with doing your exercise with the group, you know, I'm sure you'll be able to lose some of that weight.
Thanks.
A kitchen cleanup for you, Vikram, is very, very important, because if it's kept near you, if it's in your reach, you're going to get to it. Every time you open that fridge, it's going to say, eat me, and you're going to eat it.
Yeah.
So if it's healthy, it's good to eat then.
Yeah, and physiologically, when you're hungry, right, you will definitely reach out for food.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Okay, next we have another very active member, Uma. She's actually concerned. Normally, ladies in the 40s and above have thyroid issues. How can our food intake be kept intact? Any food that we need to avoid?
Thyroid per se?
Yeah, that's right.
Goitrogen. You need to avoid all these vegetables that are high on goitrogen. So your cauliflower, cabbage, soya products, you should be completely away from soya products for thyroid. And Rama, did you say 40 and above are more prone to thyroid? Is that?
Yeah, that's a question for ladies, 40s and above. Yeah.
So you will be surprised. Actually, it's really not 40 and above. It's even 20, 25 and above. That in fact, those clients of mine deal with more thyroid than 40 and above. So yeah, just keep away from these foods. Regulated healthy diet, minus your soya, completely soya, goitrogen, vegetables which are rich in goitrogen, which would also include your kale, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower per se, these things, and no completely to soya.
Okay, and I just want to add to that. So really, again, following a low to moderate carbohydrate intake, right? And then to try to increase your protein so that you feel satiated, right? So these are some key ways to lose weight. So again, with if you have a thyroid condition, it could be challenging to lose the weight, but it is very possible.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. I think it's by Ismail. He's got an interesting question. Boys, you guys may want to hear this. I tried early dinner, but nearing 10 p.m., I feel hungry again. So end up, I eat something else. Is there any tips to get over this?
Right. So, okay, very practical question there, and thanks for that, Ismail. Basically, you can have like a piece of fruit, which is only about 70 calories there. So I would suggest that. Or even like a glass of low-fat milk, which is like your protein and has like some other minerals to keep you feeling full, right? One other way, right? Some of my clients, they just go to bed earlier, you know. Because definitely if you're going to stay up late, right, it's a normal physiological process to feel hungry like every 4 to even 5 hours later. So try to go to bed earlier. That will prevent you from overeating. Okay. However, if you are hungry, I think it's a good idea to feed yourself. But again, reach out for some healthy snacks. Some of my clients even take nuts. Yeah. So nuts are good, but I just want to caution with the nuts because it's very high in calories, fat and calories. So one small bowl of nuts, right, is easily like about 800, 900 calories there. And many of our clients, they just go through like big packets of nuts just while watching TV. And the other thing is fruits. Yeah, so where they have a plate of fruits or a box of grapes and then they just finish the entire thing watching TV. So these are some behaviors we want to try to prevent, and so that it won't sabotage your weight loss plans.
Yeah. And Ismail, I've gone through the same thing earlier where I would feel hungry after doing an early dinner. So I went to fox nuts as an option. If that is something that you can make and put into an airtight box and keep it at home into a jar. Do your mixed nuts also. Avoid walnuts. Do some pistachio if possible. Do some roasted chickpeas. Keep that handy. Keep that around. So if you have to get to it, you'll get to the easier options. And watch your water intake. Make sure that is substantial enough for you not to feel this way.
Yeah, because sometimes, right, we may really be thirsty, but our body signals it as a hunger. Yeah.
And everyone tells me, oh, I'm not thirsty at all. Why would I drink that much water? Ritika, you're telling me to drink 3 liters of water a day. I can't drink that much. I'm only going to keep going to the loo all the time. Like, it's okay. Just try. Get from 2 liters to 3 liters. Your body requires that much water. So get that in. It's very important for you to do that.
Yeah. But I just want to have a disclaimer here. And all this, we're talking to a healthy individual. So if you have like a chronic disease, like a medical issue, right, you really should speak to your doctor. Before you go on a dietary change.
There's no one fit for all ever. The diet that works for me may not work for you.
Exactly.
So it's clearly customized based on your lifestyle and the challenges that you can face and the medical condition that you're going through.
Just to add on to that question from Tasneem, what is the optimal dinner time before sleeping?
In my opinion, 7 to 8 is a good time.
Okay.
You're done with your dinner.
Everyone is different, right? Depends on your lifestyle, right? Your type of food you're eating. If you can't control, like, for example, if you have to eat at a hawker center or you have to go out to eat, then maybe you would want to reduce your portion size so that the calories wouldn't creep up on you. Yeah.
And every meal takes about 3 to 4 hours to digest. So it all depends. If I'm eating my meal at 7, I know I'm sleeping only by 11. I'm good. But if I ate a meal at 9 and I'm crashing out immediately, then I'm going to wake up feeling bloated. So I don't want to feel that way. And my food doesn't get digested.
All right. So still in the same question, Dr. Maithili has asked, if you're getting hungry at night after dinner, you may want to think about the caloric value of your food. Perhaps, Sarah, you may want to elaborate on this.
Yes. So thanks for the question. And it is a good point. So you may be under eating, right? Yeah. So you may not be meeting your total caloric intake for the day. So that's one avenue, and it is a good practice to actually write down what you're eating, to keep a food diary, or even to go to the apps like MyFitnessPal. That can easily calculate for you how many calories you're supposed to be getting in a day. Just as a starting point, if you can't get to a dietitian or a nutritionist, get on one of these apps that will tell you what your actual caloric intake is supposed to be. And then when you document your food, it tells you how much you're actually eating, right? And many a times the patients or the clients may not be eating enough. I have clients who come in and they only eating like 500, 600 calories versus the actual, which is about 1,005 to 1,008, and they can't lose the weight. So very interesting to see how our body actually adapts, right? And the other thing on the glycemic index, which we actually kind of shared earlier on, is how the lower glycemic index foods, or could be things like your complex carbohydrates, actually keep you feeling fuller for a longer time. Hence, you don't need to eat that much. Yeah. So things like most of our fruits and vegetables are actually low glycemic index. Yeah, I don't have a chart with me today, but if you go online and then you Google low glycemic index, they'll give you a very good idea of what are the foods that you can incorporate. However, having said that, I just wanted to put out a word of caution. If you're going to eat all those low glycemic index foods, or rather if you're going to overeat them, right? What happens is that you end up with excessive caloric intake, and again, that ends up with weight gain. Yeah, so just to put things in perspective, so even though you can choose those lower glycemic index foods, we still need to exercise caution with them. And did you know that even chocolate is considered lower glycemic index? Yeah, basically because there's some fat in there to bring down the glycemic range, right? So the word of the day really is moderation. Yeah.
And it's really, really encouraging because we are getting so many questions in. I'm having trouble seeing which one to ask first now. It's so encouraging, actually.
Actually, Rama, someone asked about something sweet.
Yes, that's the next question.
Okay, excellent.
None other than from our Iron Man, Ramesh Dharma. I have a sweet tooth. Even with fairly healthy meals, I have some chocolates during lunch and dinner. What are your thoughts?
Okay, there is some evidence really to show that having something sweet, a healthy sweet food after meals can help you feel satiated, and hence, right, reduce your overall or keep your overall caloric intake down, right? So, but what are you having for your sweet snack? So if it's a piece of fruit which is low in calories, that's fantastic, right? But if you're having those like milk chocolates, and then you don't know when to stop. So all these like cause an addition in your caloric intake, and hence that could sabotage your weight, right? So looking at what you're eating. So for example, if you're having chocolate, go for like at minimum 70% dark chocolate, right? And really fruits would be the way to go, or even some yogurt. I think many of us love yogurt. Yeah. So
Ramesh, I think yogurt, if you are used to having yogurt with your meal, ideally a good trick to try is don't have it with your meal. Have it when you start craving your sweet. Put maybe 2 raisins into it and it'll do the job. But with you and this question that you're asking, it's good to know, why is it that you're craving sweet? You are a sweet tooth, all right, but why is it that you're craving sweet? Get to the crux of the problem. You could be craving sweet because of, is there anything with your blood report that came out, or you're craving sweet maybe because your water intake is low, maybe your protein intake is low. What is it? So get to that and then sort out from there.
yeah, I think that's a very good point. And
Ramesh, so I think it's more psychological, or more of a habit that I've had for the longest time, and it's kind of like, it kind of ends the meal, and I tend not to eat after having a sweet, right? So that is like the closure of my meal. So it's more of a habit that I've had for many, many years.
It's a very Indian habit to have. We all go through the same, but a good thing to do again over here is to
plan it out.
Yeah, just plan it out and don't do it after every meal. Maybe, on days that are really bad, eat a date. Dates are good. Raisins are better options than, doing ice creams and chocolates and all of that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. The next one's a long one, right? For some women, 1-2 weeks before getting their menses, they get hunger pangs. And even if you control the urge, you just get hungry, even though we eat healthier choice. But it's really a lot more than our usual food intake. And when it's over, then the food intake is back to normal. How can we work around this? This is
actually, yeah, that's a good observation. And there is evidence to show that just before our period, right, there's an increase in metabolism, hence the hunger, right? So you are allowed to eat about 10 to 20% more than your average caloric intake. So I would say, when you're hungry, I think that's a physiological hunger. So, it's okay to eat a bit more, really. And then, as you mentioned, rightfully mentioned, that after that, your appetite goes back to normal. Yeah, so there is evidence to show that your metabolism goes up by about at max 20%. Yeah, and then we also have all our cravings, right, that go along with it. So yeah, I think it is okay to indulge if it's going to be the once in a month, but it's not okay if it's going to be on a daily basis. Right?
Okay.
So can I just ask something?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So if let's say my metabolism rate is high, then does that mean that I would have to exercise more since I'm eating more? So would that help? Because the weight really spikes up, you see, in that 2 weeks.
Okay, some of it is water retention as well. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that it's like a very good gauge of your actual weight during this period of time. So it would be good to take your weight, just to monitor it before and then after this period of time, and then do it over a few months. So you know what your actual weight is, right? So, and you know roughly how much water you have retained in your body during this period of time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can't hear you.
Rama, you're on mute, Rama.
Sorry. Okay, the next question. What should be the ideal or typical calorie intake per day, and how strictly should we follow these numbers? This by Jacqueline.
Okay, that's a very good question, Jacqueline, but it depends on many factors, right? It depends on your gender, it depends on your activity level, right? So many things. So really, I would suggest that, you use one of those apps. If you can't get to us, then you use one of those apps to try to find out what your caloric intake is. But generally, for ladies who are inactive, right, it's about 1,002 calories, right? Yeah, so if you're leading a sedentary lifestyle, but if you exercise frequently, like 3 times or more, it can go up to 1,008 just for ladies alone, right? And for men, of course, it ranges from 1,005 all the way to 2,000, right? So, and interestingly, when you're heavier, when you weigh more, your metabolism is actually higher, right? So you can afford to eat a bit more. Okay, so that's why we can't really tell you what yours exactly is unless we know your height, your weight, your activity levels, things like that.
Calories are planned out based on your height and weight and your lifestyle currently. Accordingly, you are then given the right calories for you to consume.
Sorry, can I just ask very quickly based on the same question? So if your calorie intake is 1,300, for example, right? If you stick to this calorie intake per day and you exercise, would you still lose weight, or does it still depend on what you eat in that 1,300? You know what I mean? Or is it okay as long as you stick to it?
You should stick to it and you should eat right. Somebody asked me this question, Kavita. Is it okay if I went to McDonald's and I did the McSpicy burger just for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with fries? You're anyways giving me 1,500 calories. It'll all be within that to eat. So back to you, the same question. What do you think is going to happen to somebody who then ends up just doing junk every meal? There is no nutrition. There's processed food, there is junk, there is high carbs because of your fries. So where is the nutrition? You need to make sure that the 1,300 calories that you're speaking about gives you the right macronutrients, the right carbohydrate, right protein, right fiber, right fat.
Yeah, and also, we see a lot of people with micronutrient deficiencies that come into the clinic, basically because they've been eating out quite a bit, they're omitting their vegetables and fruits. So many a time they come in and they get their iron shots, they get their B injections. Yeah, so really, besides looking at macronutrients, you also have to think about your micronutrients. Especially as we get older, we want to think about, what you're eating. I think always my key mantra is eat with intention. Yeah. So what are you eating? And then before you put it into your mouth, what is this food giving me? Is it giving me the macronutrients and as well as the vitamins and minerals? And if it's going to be a junk item, right, I think I would keep it to like once a week. Yeah.
This, I think, comes back to what Murli had asked, right, about medication and whether it's advisable. So when you end up with micronutrient deficiencies, iron, very common with women these days, if you come up with that, then the doctor will not tell you, of course, they'll tell you to go with it with the dietary change and stuff, but you cannot increase it when you're deficient to that level with just the diet. So you need your medication, Murli, at that point in time to come in for a bit till you then sort out, and then continue it with a decent diet plan to then increase. So your macronutrients are very important within the 1,300 calories, Kavita.
Okay, awesome. We have got we're going to take a few more questions. We'll end this session in about another 12 to 13 minutes. So sorry if not all the questions are answered today, but not to worry, they're still with us. All right. So the next one, how does intermediate fasting work and does it help? Two members, Asha and Indran, has asked this question.
Yeah, so I think intermittent fasting is my favorite way of eating, and there is so much evidence to show that intermittent fasting can actually benefit weight, of course, and then blood sugar levels, and it's easier than following a diet plan, right? Because it just looks at what time you're eating. So I would definitely suggest if you can adopt this, then go for it, right? So, but everyone's different. So as you can see, Ritika is opposing to my answer.
No, I'm not opposing, but intermittent fasting should be done. Anything should be done with a good thought behind it. Intermittent fasting should not be done intermittently. If you're good to do it as a lifestyle change and you can continue it, then you'll reap the benefit. If you're going to do it as a fat diet that you just came across, you want to try it and you're expecting to lose all those inches and that weight, and then you decide that, okay, my social life is really rocking and I need to go out and party every night and I need to drink and do all of this between these hours at night, then you're defeating the purpose. So any diet that you decide to take on, you should do it very mindfully and do not do intermittent fasting intermittently.
Okay. Hope that answered. Okay, how do we count the total calorie intake per day? That's by Shanti Raja.
Shanti, thanks for that question. And really, right, unless you're trained to know all the calories, I wouldn't suggest it because it's so challenging and there's a lot of number crunching. I would suggest an easier way would be looking at your portion sizes. So it's good to be familiar with, like, we have 4 food groups: the rice and alternatives, right? Your meat and alternatives, then your fruits and vegetables. It's good to be familiar with what is your recommended serving size for the rice and alternatives. So for example, for ladies, it's about maybe 5 servings. So, and 1 bowl of rice is already 3 servings, Shanti. So imagine, like, if we have 1 bowl for lunch and 1 bowl for dinner, that's 6 servings. So you're actually exceeding your portions, right? So that would be easier because when we count calories, right, it could go up to like a bowl of rice is 200 plus calories, right? So it is a bit more challenging for my clients, I find. So when I tell them to look at portion sizes, instead it's easier. But if you still want to go ahead and count your calories, Shanti, I think using an app would be more beneficial. Things like MyFitnessPal is free, and you can easily download it. And it's so good at tracking, right? So yeah, so I would suggest you consider getting familiar with the portion sizes on the Health Promotion Board website, and then look at your diet, keep a food diary, and then and with portion sizes, and then see where you can improve from there. I hope that answered your question, Shanti.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, what are your take on home brewed kombucha for gut health by Tasnim?
Hi, Tasnim. So are you a kombucha fan? Well, I must say kombucha is an acquired taste. So very good. It's got all the good bacteria in there. Okay, so I mean, if you have the know-how on brewing kombucha, then that's fine, but it is quite complex, right? And also there's some food safety issues that go along with brewing your own kombucha. So just to take note of that, but definitely if you're talking about it from a probiotic perspective, fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, good. But of course, for Indians, the best way to benefit from probiotics is our very favorite, yes, yogurt. Yeah, so yogurt is a alternative, good alternative as well for those of you trying to improve your probiotics intake. However, right, just to take note, when you're buying yogurt, okay, yes, it's a health food, but there's a lot of calories that could creep up, so please go and read the food labels and check on the sugar content, because you find like in the supermarket, right, many of them are filled with sugar, and fat. So please try to compare between the brands and pick the one that is of lower sugar.
Make it at home.
Yes. Yeah, if not, make it at home. I don't have that know-how to make it at home.
I make it at home.
Yeah, so Ritika does.
All right, I'm going to just take 2 more questions. The next one is how to boost metabolism for women above 40. Actually, this is by Indran, but I want to add on also for men.
Right. So, because of the hormonal changes, we lose our muscles, right, as we get older. So I think the best way, right, would really be to, have your resistance training, and then to pair that with a good protein intake. I think, the biggest pitfall in our Indian way of eating, right, is the very low protein intakes that we have in our diet, right? Especially more so if you're a vegetarian. Yeah. So, we come in a lot, even the gentlemen that we see, right? They love their carbs. They have a lot of rice. But then when you ask them to quantify their protein intake, right? So that could be very low. And then, so how do you maintain your muscle mass when you have a very low intake, right? A low protein intake. Then the other thing is we love to have a lot of gravy also. So you think you're having your chicken masala, but then actually you're having just a small piece of chicken with a lot of the masala, right? So the next time you look at your meal, so, just very roughly, generically, you should be having like at least 1 palm size of meat per meal, so are you even getting that? So many of our vegetarian friends don't even get that.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
So by and large, I think knowing all of us, if you're vegetarian, we are high carb, low protein. And to answer this question again, how to boost metabolism for women above 40 and men above 40, just keep in mind that you need to do a combination of your strength and cardio exercises. Keep that going. Don't lose your muscle mass anymore. So up the protein at that stage, drink the right amount of water and lifestyle.
All right. The last question, and if you guys allow, it's actually from me. Okay. So you see, we have, from an Indian family's perspective, okay, so we have our daily lunch, which definitely comprises of rice, okay, and so I don't know if getting a dietitian is an expensive affair, but maybe you can explain. But when we have the food placed in the table and we have no choice, we are limited for time, so we just eat what we eat on a daily basis. So how can we consciously know what we are eating? And is that, I want to say no, I want to change it, but because I don't have time, I have to rush, so I just eat what's available. And,
I think Rama, you actually brought up a very good point there. How do you consciously, right? I think the first step is making a conscious effort to mindfully eat, right? And the other day when we went out to eat, right, so I had like a plate of rice and I only ate half. And I had like a lecture from someone for like 30 minutes, like, how can you waste food? Like, how can you waste rice? Do you know how hard the farmer works just to get the rice? So I think maybe when we're getting our food or someone's serving us, we just tell them like, hey, can you give me like half that portion? So, and that is one way. The other way is to mindfully eat. I tell our clients, actually 1 mouthful should be, in theory, right, they say that 1 mouthful should be actually 20 chews. But how many of us do that, right? So I tell my clients, at least try to do 5. Because many of my clients, because of time, right, they just wolf it down, and that's what we call mindless eating. And that's where you don't tell your brain that you're eating, so you get hungry faster than usual, right?
And Rama, to answer that question of yours, whatever is kept in front of you, you end up eating. You already have a set notion and you already know what is good for you and what isn't. So now if this particular dish that is placed in front of you is fried food, you should know that that's not the only food on the table. There is a lot more to eat also, but that fried food you restrict because it's not doing you any good. So the nutrition that is probably coming from the food that you dislike, probably the vegetable or the curry or whatever that is there, you do a little bit more of that and less of the junk. That's the only thing you can do. There is no one fit for all. So everyone gets a customized diet. So like you said that, you don't know whether you can afford a dietitian or not. But if you are looking at some sort of a change and very seriously, you should get one. Otherwise, you're just going to be playing in the dark trying to fix it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. If I have not taken your question, I believe I've taken most of it. Maybe one or two I might have missed out, but we don't have time for today. But like I said, Ritika and Sarah is part of TMR, so you can ask your questions in our Facebook page anytime. So they would be more than happy to answer you. Thank you for joining us. Very encouraging Sunday morning, almost 50 of us joining. Well, have a great weekend and we'll catch you again. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.